Let's get this show on the road!
Playing the Ascent feels like getting a little piece of my soul back. It's been a long while since I've played a game with the same level of discovery, experimentation, and wonder. The Ascent offers up a lot up front and just keeps offering more at every turn. On top of its wonderful progression system, exploration, and myriad of different powers and weapons to play with, it also manages to be one of the prettiest games I've played in years. This is the first indie title I've played this year to really feel next-gen, and that's mostly due to its impeccable art direction, special effects, and wonderful sound design. The Ascent is an isometric action RPG set in the cyberpunk arcology of the Ascent Group, a megacorporation that owns the arcology in which you live, all the businesses inside of it, and, well, you. You play as an indentured servant, or indent, in the lower levels of the arcology. The Ascent will see you shooting your way through gangs, corporate grab teams, and genetic mistakes, all the way to the Pinnacle and the Ascent Group board offices while you unravel a corporate conspiracy. Everything starts out ordinarily enough here, with you trolling through the futuristic sewer level called the Deep Stink. Here you do all the regular tutorial mission stuff. Learn to shoot, hack, learn the cover system, those kinds of things. And it's all a fairly solid experience, and things seem to be pretty standard fare until you leave the Deep Stink. Once you get up to the Warrens, the sheer size of the world starts to hit you. You walk for blocks through densely populated streets over a seemingly unending walkway which orbits the center of the arcology in which you live. It's honestly breathtaking, and I'm having a hard time remembering the last time a game made this strong an impression with its world building right out the gate. The setting of the Ascent does a lot of the narrative work here. There are several different species of alien, stores with waiting patrons line the streets, holographic ads and neon signs show up on every corner. Numerous conversations are happening on the streets at all times. Background characters are always doing things. There's also loot stashed away in almost every corner, and it's good loot most of the time too. The world here doesn't just feel alive, it's positively overflowing with life. The amount of work done on the settings here is fantastic, but it almost makes me worry. Like, are the devs okay? Is everyone there getting enough sleep? This opening area also introduces one of my biggest gripes with the game though, and that's that some of these areas are pretty confusing. It's not a problem in most areas, but some of the hubs are absolutely labyrinthian. There are multiple levels, little elevators and stairways everywhere, and it can all feel a little overwhelming at times. When you have objectives to track down, you have a hotkey for a navigational Omega Beam, but that only works for missions. If you see an item on a different level than the one you're currently on, good luck with that. The map doesn't help much here either. These confusing areas are few and far between, though, and you do eventually find yourself succumbing to its moon logic, so you learn to live with it. But it was one of my biggest problems. On the upside of level design, though, most of these areas look incredible. They range from the aforementioned deep stink sewers filled with ferals, all the way to the Ascent corporate offices staffed by security drones. You go through secret labs and giant blue server rooms, they all look fantastic. Some levels have lighting effects that make seeing everything going on around you a little difficult to keep track of sometimes, but that's more of a nitpick. The bigger problem here, I think, is tighter areas will keep enemies hidden off-screen. This happens more often than I'd like to see. Speaking of enemies, the combat is absolutely electric here, and certainly the highlight of the whole game. You get 2 slots for guns, 2 slots for augments, and 1 for a tactical item. So let's hit each of those categories. The guns are fantastic, ranging from your basic pistol to lightning gun, to shotgun, minigun, war crime combo meal. The guns all get their own upgrade system, which I'm a little mixed on. You collect components that scale and level and take an increasing number to upgrade your weapon of choice. And no, they are not Titanite. I like a good weapon upgrade system, but it does actively discourage you from trying out any cool new weapons you find because you need to invest in them before they're worth it. I feel like having them scale with your stats might have been better. I mostly just stuck with my minigun in the second half of the game because that's where all my upgrade components went. That part was a little disappointing, but I'm overall pretty impressed by the variety here. The augments are where stuff gets really spicy. You can do a lot with these. You start off with a punch that removes the soul from anyone unfortunate enough to stand in front of you, and they only scale up from there. You can turn your body into a rocket launcher, or a giant laser, summon robots, or utilize your victims' bodies for murder synergy. If I kept talking about these powers, I could go on all day. It's a lot. When it comes to tactical gear, I was left a little underwhelmed. It covers things like grenades and deployable turrets. It says you can get drones too, but I only ever found one, and it's not that great. The top end is a deployable mech suit, but don't get too excited. This thing sucks. It was my biggest disappointment of the game. This thing does terrible damage and turns you into a big, slow, dumb robot. It feels more like a debuff than anything. I feel like this mech suit should have a boost or an AoE stomp or anything, really. I can't kill anything like this. It feels like it's broken. It can't be this bad intentionally. I hope that gets fixed. Overall, though, these toys can be combined in a myriad of different ways. These are some great systems to play with, and they kept me entertained for hours. So let's talk about sound design next. The music here is exactly what you would expect from a cyberpunk dystopia, and it is absolutely incredible work by composer Paweł Blaszczak? There's no way I'm saying that right. I don't think the music here is quite on par with Cyberpunk 2077's soundtrack, but this game beats it in a lot of other ways. All the weapons sound beefy, explosions will shake you out of your seat, and the voice acting is mostly perfect.
I need more problems about as much as I need a rectum on my forehead.
They even have an alien language for side quest NPCs, which deep down I know is just a cover, so they wouldn't need to voice act all that extra dialogue, but I really don't mind. Makes me feel like I'm taking jobs in a dirty bar on Tatooine or something. All the sound work and mixing here is fantastic. A+. Except for one little issue. Sometimes I would get an audio glitch in stores that made it sound like pots and pans were being banged together right beside my head or a gunfight was going on. I'm guessing the sound effects weren't queuing correctly or something like that, but I couldn't recreate the glitch for a recording, so it's not that big a deal, but I thought I should mention it. Speaking of bugs, I only had a few in my playthrough. I think the worst bug is that tutorial prompts would always pop up in stores in the starting area of the game. Like, the triggers never got removed or something. It was kind of funny at first, but it got pretty annoying about 40 hours in. The last missions even see you return to the first area of the game, and the tutorial prompts popped up there too, which I just kinda had to laugh about. I'm sure this can be fixed in a patch, but it didn't alter my experience of the game all that much. So what about the story? Well, as mentioned before, you're a lowly indent just struggling to survive, doing dirty work for this guy named Poon.
But who the flaming fuck?
And I will never not laugh at that name. There's a few things here that you just have to laugh at. Things start to go tits up, and you find out that's because the board of the Ascent group that owns everything here has gone dark and filed for bankruptcy. You start to slowly unravel the mystery behind what happened while trying to earn your independence. However, while I won't spoil anything here, I will say I was pretty underwhelmed with the story as a whole. I'm of the opinion that a video game needs a strong villain, and there just isn't one here. There is a villain revealed toward the final quarter of the game, but anytime they were mentioned, I just found myself asking, who? I suppose there is one character that is set up to be an antagonist, but it never feels like you have a grudge or anything. He's just kind of a dick to you, and you only interact with him 2 or 3 times. The cyberpunk setting lives and breathes as an indictment of runaway capitalism and the dehumanization of class politics inherent to that system. And while the game does hit those notes sometimes, It's mostly drowned out by the sounds of miniguns and explosions. This setting is ripe territory for a great villain, but that villain just never arrives. There's even a post-credit scene that hints to some big evil corporation behind everything, but I don't have any idea who this is. Why wasn't he the villain the whole time? I don't know, I guess they just wanted the bankruptcy of the Ascent group to be the big mystery driving the plot, but I feel like you really need a much stronger antagonist. I guess capitalism and corporocracy are the villains here? Sure, that's fine, but I want a face to punch. Maybe there's a commentary there? I don't know, I have to get the script finished. So, should you play the Ascent? Yes! Absolutely! No qualifiers this time, just buy it. I know I critiqued a lot of things here, but this is my favorite game I've played so far this year, and that's not a compliment I give lightly. The story may be a little lackluster, but that doesn't take away from the absolute joy of the combat systems and RPG mechanics on display here. Neon Giant is the studio responsible for all of this. The company is made up of industry vets, and it really shows here. They know how to make a fun, engrossing game, and I am very much looking forward to what they do next. So that is it for this week. I thank you very much for watching this review, and if you enjoyed it, go ahead and drop a like, comment, or even subscribe. Those are all things that I enjoy. And join me next time for whatever I decide to review next. I'll see you later, I guess. You can leave now. Bye-bye.
I need a rectum on my forehead.